Let's talk about verbs and expressions for introducing a text. That's introducing the title of a book or an article and giving the name of the author. You do that a lot in writing for school. You do that right at the beginning of a summary or a response or a summary response paper. And you do it often in an essay as well. So let's take this opportunity to make sure that the grammar you use for introducing a text is as perfect as possible. So we're going to start with according to. Okay, according to Poland. According to has the same meaning as Poland says or Poland explains. So we don't want to repeat both of them. So this is going to be wrong. According to Michael Pollan in The Omnivore's Dilemma, he says organic doesn't necessarily mean healthy. Now I understand what you mean, but according to and he says has the same meaning, so it's repetitive. So let's put together this sentence with according to. Okay, so we have according to Michael Pollan in chapter 10 of The Omnivore's Dilemma. So this is the wrong way to do it, right? We don't want both of these in a sentence. So I'm going to take that out. How about this one? Is that better? No, same problem, right? You just want to go right into what he says. According to Michael Pollan in chapter 10 of The Omnivore's Dilemma, organic doesn't necessarily mean healthy. Now if we take out according to, so this is a good sentence, but if we take this out, now we need something like Pollan says. In chapter 10 of The Omnivore's Dilemma, Pollan says organic doesn't necessarily mean healthy. So you can use according to, or you can use a reporting verb like says. Not both. So that brings us to our 4 most common reporting verbs. Tell, say, talk, and explain. Let's learn how to use these as perfectly as possible. When you use the word tell, either in the present tense, tell, or in the past tense, told, you always have to say, tell someone. Tell him, tell her, tell us, told them, told your teacher. So Pollan tells us the meaning of organic. You're not going to use us with other verbs. So you would not say, Pollan says us, Pollan talks us, Pollan explains us. Those would all be wrong. Especially I see problems with explain. So make sure you say Pollan explains the meaning of organic. No us. Now about. You can talk about. And when you use the word talk, you really always use about. Talk about something. It's also possible to say tells us about. You don't need to say about, but it is okay. So Pollan talks about the meaning of organic, or Pollan tells us about the meaning of organic. You're not going to use about with say, tell, or explain. You would never say Pollan says about, Pollan tells about, or Pollan explains about. These verbs do not use about. Now notice you can say he tells us about, but you can't say tell about with no person in the middle. One more important thing is this word about. What kind of word is that? It's a preposition. And what do you know about prepositions? After preposition, you need a noun. So after talk about or tell us about, you're going to use a noun phrase. What is a noun phrase? We've already learned about a clause, so let's compare. A clause has a subject and a verb. We are reading the book, The Omnivore's Dilemma, in class. We have our subject, we. We have our verb, are reading. A noun phrase is a group of words. It contains a noun and it does not have a verb. For example, chapter 10 of The Omnivore's Dilemma. This would be a noun phrase. Chapter 10 is a noun. And then we can have some more describing words. This is a prepositional phrase giving us more information about the noun. Eating grass. This can be a tricky one when people see the ing. But notice up here, when we have the verb are reading, we have this are. We have a be verb, is rm, right, before we have ing. That's our present progressive verb. But here we have ing alone. When you have ing alone, you either have an adjective or you have a gerund. And this is a gerund. A gerund is the noun form of a verb. So eating grass is a noun phrase. And here, the effects of cows eating corn. So effects, that's a noun. And then we have a little bit more here to explain what kind of effects. This is a prepositional phrase of cows eating corn. And again, eating is not a verb. It doesn't say cows are eating. It just says cows eating. That is a gerund, and this is a noun phrase. So why do we care about noun phrases? Well, first we need to be able to tell the difference. Noun phrase or independent clause. So let's compare. Here's our noun phrase. The changing definition of the word organic. This is an adjective describing the noun definition. And then we have a prepositional phrase. So this is definitely a noun phrase. But we could say the same information in an independent clause. The word organic has changed a lot. So here's our subject, and here's our verb. This verb has tense, you notice. It's not just ing by itself. Has changed, present perfect verb. Here's a noun phrase again. Cows getting sick from corn. It doesn't say cows are getting sick. So this is a gerund, and this is a noun phrase. Here, cows get sick from corn. Now we have subject verb. This verb matches the subject. This is present, simple present tense. Noun phrase, corn becoming king of the farm. This is a gerund, giving more information about corn. Here is prepositional phrase. We don't have any verbs here. This is a noun phrase. Corn has kicked other crops off the farm. This is an independent clause. We have our subject, we have our verb, and in all these cases, the independent clause could be a sentence by itself. We could put a capital letter, we could put a period, and we would have a sentence. That's not true with a noun phrase. If I put a capital and a period, this would be a fragment, because there's no verb. It's important to know what a noun phrase is, because when you say talk about, like Poland talks about, after this about, you're going to put a noun phrase. So Poland talks about the effects of cows eating corn. It would be wrong to say Poland talks about cows get sick from corn. This is an independent clause with a subject and a verb. Instead, you want to use the noun phrase. You could say Poland talks about cows getting sick from corn. Use the gerund instead of a regular verb. This is also wrong. Poland talks that. We don't say talk that. we say talk about. When do we use the word that? We use that plus an independent clause. So Poland says that. Poland explains that. So if you've studied noun clauses, these are noun clauses, but if you haven't, it's okay. You can just remember after you say Poland says that, you have a subject and you have a verb. You have an independent clause. Cows get sick from corn. Michael Pollan explains that the word organic has changed a lot. It would be wrong to use a noun phrase right here. So Pollan explains that cows getting sick from corn. No, we'd have to use a real verb here. Cows get, okay? It's also wrong to say talk about that. You can't put these two together, about and that. You could say Poland talks about, and then you need a noun phrase. So to summarize, you can say talk about, tell us about, plus a noun phrase. You can use says, tells us, and explains, plus that, plus an independent clause.